friends, welcome back to Daily Sews and Stuff. I'm Braylon Daly, and this is Clinton Blackmore. We are talking today about his new program for projector sewing called Project and Cut, and y'all are not going to believe how much this is going to change the projector sewing world. It is a crazy piece of technology that makes calibration completely simple and just is doing all the things that we've been asking for from the beginning. So, Clinton, it's so exciting to talk to you about this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got here? What do you do in real life?
All right. Well, top of the morning, everyone, and thanks for inviting me on, Bradlyn. What do I do in real life? Well, I've been working as a programmer for some time. Sometimes we're called a developer, sometimes software engineer, although that seems a little pretentious to me at times. At the moment, I work with a company making software for car dealerships. Previously, I worked for a company making software for farmers, and they had a whole bunch of satellite imagery and stuff that they'd process and tell you how your crops were doing and if there was a blight or time to harvest or whatnot. Before that, I worked as a system administrator for a school division, and my first, real jobs, I was working as a video game programmer.
So your whole professional life has been around developing these kinds of programs and solving problems with computers.
Exactly. Yes.
I love it. Okay, so how did you get connected with projector sewing?
How did I get? Okay, so, yeah, during the pandemic, I needed something where I wasn't on the screen. It was too much. And, we were in lockdowns. I don't know how it was in the rest of the world, but, I'm glad that it has come to pass and we're not still in it. So I thought sewing might be an interesting thing to take up. And my wife said that it requires precision and attention to detail. I thought, great, I do that. So let me show you some of the things I've sewn, which is not actually a lot. But, okay, I made I made a bag here, just pretty simple. Oh, and it actually flips out. Forgot. There we go.
Oh, it's reversible. Awesome.
So we had Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I made one of my kids a Halloween costume based on the tunic that Link wears. Yeah, my wife made him a shield. And
it's amazing.
I had a master sword, but it's some of my kids' friends did not realize it was more of a prop than a weapon. And
yes, I understand.
And lastly, I made a dress for my wife. And well, she hasn't particularly worn it very often. I thought, this is a good challenge. So here we go.
My husband never wears things I make for him either.
And it has pockets, right? I'm told that's important.
Yes, that's very important. Yes.
Anyways, so you might imagine that I was, well, I'm interested in learning about sewing. And I wonder if I have my books handy. There was a real cool one for cosplay about, it's called The Hero's Closet.
Oh, yeah.
Make various things. And I got one on a backyard adventure. Oh, I made a couple of hats. Because, yeah, all right, let's make hats for everybody. That would be fun.
Yeah. Millinery is a whole other set of skills.
So I was interested in, all right, what sort of technological things are there? We've got 3D printers, we've got smart cutting machines. What are they doing? And somehow I stumbled upon projector sewing, and I wanted to try it out. And yeah, and even for me, we at some point got a secondhand projector, which has turned out to be pretty crappy. Just getting that thing calibrated, such a pain. And then I found out that, so I've kind of got a room downstairs where I do, well, that's where I filmed in my video on introducing Project and Cut. I'll do sewing in there, but also do woodworking and ham radio and 3D printing, whatever.
All your creative pursuits.
Exactly. So this is in the basement. When the kids are running around jumping upstairs, the projector would move just enough, that like, okay, this is not gonna work.
Yes. Mine is not underneath running children, but we live in a house that was built in 51, and so it's pier and beam, and also the door is right there, and so anytime they would slam the door or thunder through, it would move things a little bit. My husband solved that for me by making a mount for my UST, and then making a table for me, so the mount sits on the table. So if the projector moves, the table also moves, and it,
Okay.
balances itself out. But yeah,
Moves in synchronicity.
yes.
Synchronicity.
But you solved the same problem by writing a whole
Yes.
computer program for it.
Well, and it wasn't just for me. I mean, why did I write this thing? I have probably been in the projectors for sewing Facebook group, I don't know, for 3 or 4 years, and I see every day, multiple times a day, is this good enough? Does this work? And um, what else did they have? My aspect
So
ratio is
many,
wrong.
yeah, so many people have what I've come to call calibration dread, where they just completely psych themselves out and can't even get started opening the box because they are so worried about how awful calibration is going to be. And
Well, and so many
for
people
some people,
have awful
yes,
experiences.
for some people it really, really is awful, and then other people it goes really quickly. And there's also that, oh, what is it called? What is it called? Survivorship bias, where it's only
Oh,
the people
sure.
who
Yep.
have the problem come
Oh,
and post
right.
how much of a problem they've had. The people who it takes 10 minutes to do it just get started cutting and sewing. So it's,
Yep.
you know, but but there genuinely are issues, and people genuinely have trouble, and people genuinely get paralyzed by the idea that it might be hard, and it really might be hard.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah. That's why that group is really helpful, but also it can be a little bit uh
Reinforcing the negative.
yes, yes, exactly.
Yep, yep. When I worked as a sysadmin, I started to think that all computers were junk. You know, it's nothing but problems. But
Yeah,
no, I was only seeing the 2% of them that were having
right,
problems.
exactly. Yeah.
And especially there's many people who want to sew that are not technologically literate. And I thought,
Hmm.
you know, if we could just simplify this for them. And I'll mention, my wife was pointing this out to me. I had considered making the software open source, and even I wondered about could it be commercial and open source. But one thing she pointed out is you've worked harder to make it easier to use because it didn't have to be just, hey, it's good enough for me. Now y'all
Yeah.
can try it.
So, kind of, what was the process of doing this? You saw that there was a need for yourself and for others,
Right.
and then computer
Well,
necessity
and
happened.
actually, I probably started working on this, oh, 2 or 3 years ago, and like, all right, let's got to solve this problem. And one thing programmers do is like, hey, there's this new technology I'd like to learn to use. I'll use it on a project. So I started on it and worked on it a little bit. Come back to it weeks later, and like, where was I going with this? And it got nowhere. We had a lot of foolishness and a little bit of miracle. So in June, I broke my back.
Oh no!
Yeah, I went over, I was at a new bike park and went over a jump not knowing that it was a jump.
Oh
And
no! Yeah.
so, like, just bam, you know, like the doctors tell me that if the fracture in my vertebra halfway up my back had gone a little bit further, I would have lost the use of my legs. Or
Oh.
likewise, I was bleeding here. They called it a subdermal contusion.
Mm-hmm.
And they said you probably had microstrokes, and really just not a stretch that I could have been brain dead, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I honestly believe that God spared my life, that he sent guardian angels. Maybe some ancestors were watching over me on duty that day. I like to think that I'm not hard duty most of the time, but
But that day you made it exciting.
but that day I made it exciting.
Go ahead. So you broke your back, and you got a
Right, right. And so I got to wear this brace, and it allowed me to be up and stuff, but it was not comfortable to wear.
yes, and you turned it into Iron Man suit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got a coworker in near San Francisco, and he sent me that sticker.
That's amazing.
Based on an idea from a fellow in the UK, I built a lie down desk. So
Oh,
underneath the desk is a monitor facing down, and then I was able to lie down with my brace off, and I had a split keyboard that would go on either side of, well, my torso, and I was able to work that way. So yeah, initially when I broke my back, they said, "Oh, in about 12 weeks you'll be good to go, 3 months." And so I said, "Okay, I'm taking a medical leave for 4 months. We're good." Well, I have uh, new respect for, say, when a woman is overdue. Like, all right, this baby was supposed to come out a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was broke my back at the end of June, and it was early December when I finally got the brace off. It was nearly 5 months,
Yeah.
and I did get to go back to work, and they were really good. They eased me back into it. I really appreciated that, and it's so much nicer working part time than full time. But
Yes.
since I had a little bit of energy left over and stuff, I thought, okay, it's time to work on this projector sewing for real, like the software for it. And it was funny. I'd been working on it for 3 months. When my friend came over one day and said, "Well, does this work?" And yeah, I guess we should hook up a projector and try it out.
You didn't know you couldn't get downstairs to your shop.
Well, I could, but it everything was just so much more
Yeah.
tedious trying to
Yeah.
set it up. But I was confident the theory was sound. You asked a little bit about how the software works.
Yeah.
So there's a technique called projection mapping, and actually do some really cool stuff with it.
But side note to the viewers, Clinton sent me a link that I'm going to put in the description box, which is a short video showing different crazy cool things they do with this. And when I saw that, I realized I had seen this before at a children's museum that we went to once, where this little virtual car could drive around stuff. But it's crazy all the things people are doing with this. And it's crazy to me you took that idea and applied it to something like this. But yeah, keep going.
Well, and I did see some software for projection mapping. Like for example, you might set up a box here and another box there, and you would and so these are like cubes in 3D space, right, in the real
Mm-hmm.
world. And on your computer screen, you'd say, okay, I want this area here of the screen to show this image or this movie, and this area to show a different image or a movie. And I keep thinking virtual stages for plays would be cool. I never see any science fiction plays, but you could project on like the
Yeah.
console or something that people on, yeah, like a Star Trek sort of person. All right, let's go to warp, and you could see them, and it could totally be controlled by the computer. That would be neat.
That would be crazy. Yeah.
Oh, something else I saw in this vein. There are some companies selling projector decorations. So I have family in Dallas, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and we visited them for Halloween in 2019, and someone had singing jack-o'-lanterns. So they had a projector set up. I don't remember if they had just the one or if they had three of them. Because the company I bought a video from had it either way. And yeah, there's lit up faces that were animated, and I had to do that a couple years later here, and it's so cool and so simple. And they had other things too, where you'd like bring down a bed sheet or even project onto your window, festive decorations.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I've seen not at a person's house, but at a really big like drive-through light show that we go to sometimes at Christmas. They have something kind of like that.
Anyway, so project and cut just does the simplest sort of projection mapping where you warp a plane, just a flat surface, onto another flat surface, and you skew it just so that it undoes imperfections in how the projector is set up. And well, tell me, you've tried project and cut, haven't you?
I have. Yeah, I've done two projects with it now. Yeah.
Oh wow! And so yeah, it's pretty easy to set up, and it works nicely for you.
Yeah. So the second, well, actually, both projects that I cut out, I used my projector that's already pretty well calibrated, but I played around with it on the floor with another projector that's not set up at all, and I intentionally unleveled the feet and skewed it. I didn't want to do that with my normal projector, but I did it
Oh,
with one of my spares.
absolutely. Yep.
So I intentionally unleveled the feet and skewed it and kind of oh, you can't see but like tilted it in the mount
Yep.
and did the mapping and it fixed it. It the when you saw on the screen So you duplicate your screen. You can also, Clinton showed me how to extend it because viewers know I love the extended screen. Um, but whenever it was duplicated, you could see on my computer screen the actual shape that it made to correlate with what I was perceiving as a rectangle on the ground where I was projecting. And it was not a rectangle. It was quadrilateral shape, but it was not a rectangle. And it was really cool to see, that's how it's skewing itself to unskew it.
Exactly. Warp the source image so that the final image comes out right.
Yeah, it's my brain sort of understands it, but it's crazy.
Well, and it's funny because here's where my game programming background comes in handy. You know, in a 3D world and stuff, what you're doing with the math is it sort of looks like the player's running around the world, but actually to draw the scene, you move the world to where the player is, and then you provide a projective transform so that we can flatten the 3 dimensions into 2 dimensions, and so it's the
Okay.
same sort of math.
So you have taken all these, computer background, gaming backgrounds, and now you're sewing and you've combined them all together and you've
Exactly.
projector mapped and skewed the source image to unskew the end product.
Yep.
And
And
that
then
sounds
hopefully
really
that,
complicated, though. That sounds like really complicated and techy and all of that sort of stuff.
well, and it's interesting because I remember thinking 3 years ago, if somebody simply did this, well, now they've been working on this. I started in earnest in September. Yeah, simply did was kind of incorrect.
Mhm. I feel like that's the story of my life right there. It would be so easy if I just, and no, it's not easy.
Yep, yep.
So it took you a lot of background and a lot of super techy things and a lot of probably math that my brain does not begin to comprehend. But for the end user, is
Yeah.
it like that?
No, no. For the end user, you move 4 dots around, you put in 2 measurements, and you're done.
Yeah. I seriously, guys, I've played with it. It's so easy. You're not gonna believe it. I'll do another video following this one that will show you what the process is, and also in the description box you can find Clinton's video where he's given kind of an overview of it. But y'all, it is so ridiculously easy to use.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. My mission is accomplished if there aren't 10 people every day posting saying, I can't calibrate my projector.
Yes, yes, I love it. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the brass tacks here about the program. So you are creating this program, and it's a commercial
That's right.
program, which means it will be for sale.
Yep.
You intend for this to be a subscription or a one-time cost.
I intend it to be a one-time cost.
Okay.
Everyone I've talked to hates subscriptions, and honestly, I hate them too. Let's just and you know what? With renewed perspective this year, if I die, I want your software to keep working.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so especially because it's just you behind it.
Exactly. Yep.
If you're a dad and you have a full-time job, and so you've worked this in as a side project. So speaking of, you've worked it in as a side project, it's going to be a one-time fee, but are people going to expect there to be updates that come with that?
So I'm envisioning there's going to be a version 1 series, and that it'll, be feature complete. It'll do everything you need. But if I ever imagine something else that's really a big update, version 2 would be a separate, pay again for it.
So again, side note to my viewers, that's kind of like when we started with Affinity Designer, we were in Affinity Designer version, I think it was 1. And if you paid for that, you got lots of little updates along the way. But when Affinity Designer 2 came out, we had to pay to upgrade to 2. But now that 2 is out, we've had several little updates along the way that have been free. It seems like very much the same concept.
Very much the same concept.
Okay,
Yep.
so I know you don't actually have this price set yet. Do you want
Yep.
to give us maybe a range that you're thinking? Should people be expecting to spend hundreds of dollars, or, you know, what are you expecting here?
Well, okay. So it's definitely going to be less than the price of a cheap projector.
Okay.
I put out a survey question about how much would people think was a reasonable price, and The most common answer the last time I looked at the data was $50 US. And I might even go a little bit lower than that, but I don't imagine going higher than that.
Okay, so that's still, in the works, but we'll find out about that soon, I'm sure. That's good to know, like a ballpark there.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about who can use this software. Is this software for people who are on mobile or computer? Is this software for people who understand computers or don't? What's your, I guess, target audience?
It's designed for everyone to be able to use. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. I think, I think Einstein said that a formula should be as simple as possible, but no simpler. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm hoping that an old grandma who, grew up before there were personal computers would be able to use it and, do some sewing or, I'm not even thinking of the terms, where you add a design to something else. Anyways, I'm hoping it would be useful for someone like that. And if it's useful for someone like that, I think it would be useful for someone who uses computers every day. Now, if you've only learned to use a phone and not an actual computer, maybe there'll be a little bit of a learning curve. I actually saw an article recently where they were lamenting that people don't know how to use mice anymore.
I realized a few months ago that my kids were that way. They've only ever dealt with tablets or phones.
So let me say this. If you can use a mouse, you can use project and cut.
Yes. I mean, y'all, it really is that simple. If you've got a computer that has a mouse and is running, what is it, Windows and Mac?
So Windows 10 and up, and it looks like Mac OS 10.15 and up.
Okay.
Perhaps I'll support Linux, but I'm afraid the Chromebooks and the mobile devices are off the table for the foreseeable future.
Right. And we've talked about this, that Chromebooks are basically really fancy tablets that have an attached keyboard. They're not real computers the way that Macs and Windows are.
On the other hand, you should be able to find a secondhand computer, um, 200 or 300 bucks, that'll run this just fine.
So as long as the computer is running Windows 10, it doesn't need a ton of RAM. It doesn't need a ton of memory. That's not the right word I meant to say.
No, that's the right idea. No, I don't think. I think anything that'll run Windows 10 will run this. No, I could be proven wrong, but I haven't heard any feedback to the contrary.
Deal. I should download it on my old laptop, which is not good, and see if I
Absolutely.
notice
Let me
anything on
know.
that. Yeah.
Yep, but that's the expectation. Any computer. I'm not sure when Mac OS 10.15 came out, but I kind of want to say within the last 10 years is going to be able to run it.
Awesome. Okay. And we've also talked about from the beginning, it's just so much easier to project from a computer. It has been so much easier to project from a computer than from a mobile device. And I think that's even more true with this project and cut coming out, because this is going to simplify it even further from a
Well,
computer.
and I'm trying to imagine how you would do this on a phone, and my imagination isn't good enough.
So it sounds like there's a room in the market for somebody else out there who understands how to make that work.
Oh yeah, someone else wants to make this for mobile devices, go nuts. Be my guest, make people happy.
That does sound, I mean, just from the very little that you've told me, the very little I can wrap my brain around, that sounds very complicated very quickly. With all the
I
different,
suspect so.
what do
Yeah,
you, all the different variables that would be there. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, let's talk about, so when you use it, it's still important to have a fairly flat surface, because it's not going
Oh
to
yeah,
account for, a hump in your table or a dip in your table. But
that's
if your
correct.
table isn't level, is that a problem?
No, your table doesn't need to be level, but it does need to be flat.
Okay.
The technical term is planar,
Okay.
but yep, if it's flat, you're good. Um, Someone was saying that really cheap projectors might not project an image flat and curve around the edges, and maybe that'll be an issue, but I haven't heard from anyone that it is an issue, uh, and people have used this successfully without problems. So if it is an issue, it's minor.
And so does it work with, we've always said to get a projector that was at least 720p, because the
Yep.
480p's, sometimes the aspect ratio is just unresolvable. Does this fix that?
I think it does actually. So my old crappy projector was one of those that tells your computer it's 1080p, but it's actually like 480 or something weird.
Yeah.
And and that's the one that my friend came over and we tried it out with that projector. I got a Yoton that everyone recommended for Christmas. So
Sasha discovered
and
that one and it's amazing.
isn't it great?
Yes.
And so it seemed to work just fine with this crappy little projector. Now that said, you know, the color isn't very great on the projector and you can tell that the resolution isn't that great. But if that's what you got, try it out. I think it will work. And if you
Right.
got something better, you'll get better results.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so does it matter if, you were talking about how your kids run through and knock off your calibration, or if if it's difficult for you to get up tall enough to adjust it to a perfect,
Mhm.
levelness of your projector. Is any of that important anymore?
Okay, so kids running around, if they knock it out of projection, you just have to go back to calibrate and tweak a couple things, and should be back in business in a minute. As for having not enough height, I think, and nobody's tried this that I'm aware of, that this opens up a world of using mirrors. So you
Oh,
have to
yes.
understand.
Oh, hold on. Yes, I want you to talk about that. I meant if it's difficult for you to climb a ladder and adjust your projector to be projecting down at as
Oh
a square
goodness,
image, is that a problem?
no, no, no. Just put your projector up, make it halfway decent, and you're done. You don't have to go up that ladder again.
And yes, and whenever he said recalibrate earlier, trust me, this recalibration will take you half a second versus what it took before. Okay,
Oh yeah, yeah, no, yes,
so
definitely.
yes, people already use mirror setups, but it involves lots and lots of crazy math. So I want to hear what you're saying about mirror setups with this.
Okay, so the first things you have to understand, projectors are designed for use at a specific distance.
Right.
The farther away the projector is from the projected image, the bigger the image is.
Yes.
It's also dimmer though, and that's worth taking into account. But they're designed for a specific distance. Beyond that distance, or too short for that distance, you're not going to be able to focus the image, and it's going to drive you crazy.
Yes.
But if you're in the distance, then you should be able to either, ah, wish I could draw with a mouse. You should be either able to set up your projector here facing forward and mirror at a 45 and have your table down here and just calibrate it and work. Or you should be able to have your projector here, bounce it off a mirror on the ceiling, and then project onto your mat and just have it work. And if you were crazy and wanted to use multiple mirrors, heaven help you.
That's lots of math, but you can. If you, I'll see if I can put a little card up at the top. My friend Megan from So and Tell Australia was on and showed us her projector setup that's set up with a mirror. So you can go
Mhm.
watch that video and see how she's got that set up. It's
Oh, that's great.
Her husband is an engineer and he used his big engineer brain to figure out how to make that work. But it let her have her table directly against two walls and still get this big image that she needed with a not very tall ceiling. Yeah, I hadn't thought about how that would make a mirror setup so much easier too. That's
Well, and wouldn't it though? I mean, that's the
Yes,
problem is trying to square it up is impossible.
yeah.
But if
Well,
the
and
software does it for you,
yes, and the more variables you add, like mirrors, the crazier it gets with making it all correct. Yeah. Oh, yes, that's amazing. Okay, so you got this software together. You had this brilliant idea. You figured out how to
mhm.
make it all work. You hit some challenges along the way, like being flat on your back, and you finally started moving forward with things. And yeah, you have finally created this, and it's ready. It's getting close to ready
It's
to launch
close
out into the
already.
world.
Yep.
What are your hopes with where this is going to go?
Um, oh, well, yeah, I guess my hope is twofold. Number one is that people don't have problems calibrating their projectors anymore. I'm sorry I'm not able to help those of you using phones, but those of you using computers, I think this is going to be a solved problem. And
I think so
yeah,
too.
it just makes me sad when people can't get their aspect ratio right, or where the projector, there's no way to make the aspect ratio right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
when they just can't level it. I mean, it's so, if you're going up and down the ladder
Yeah.
and trying to make tiny tweaks, that's so hard. And then when there's a software update and the setup that you had no longer works,
Yes.
oh
Yes, that
my
can be very,
goodness.
very frustrating too.
And then the other thing is, yeah, since I put some effort into this, I thought, well, gee, being able to pay for my kids' braces and stuff.
Yes. I feel ya. Uh-huh.
This would be good. Maybe I can help. I've got 6 sons, and sending them all to college or university sounds a little bit daunting. So,
Yes. Okay, let's wrap this up.
okay,
So
yep.
it's fixing to be ready for release, and it's going to be a version 1.
Yep.
Do you have some sort of vision for some things that you might be adding
Oh, sure.
before it comes out or after it comes out?
Well, okay. So, uh, just in the last couple of days since this announcement went live, I've worked with some translators and have been very impressed. So I'm thinking of trying to move up translation for the main user interface. That whole instruction screen might be another matter. I need to, oh, I need to sign up for developer accounts so that I can do code signing. So like if you installed on a Mac right now, you have to like right click and open, and it's like Apple cannot verify this software.
Yeah.
And
And it's just like PDF Stitcher on Windows you have to tell it more info and then tell it to run anyway. Yeah.
yep. So I need to fix that. I'd like to get automatic updates working. I need to actually figure out how to sell the software, and but I got some of the steps in place. I sold myself a piece of digital artwork and got 80 cents in the bank from it.
Nice.
So that's close. And Sheridith, can't remember her last name. She mentioned the idea of having a zoom in feature, a magnifying glass. So if you're trying
Oh,
to read
the
some
tiny
text
text.
in
Yeah.
your pattern. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe you hit the space bar and it zooms in and you can read it and you let go, and it's back to normal.
Yeah.
Whether that's in version 1 or like 1.1, I don't know it just yet, but that's a feature I'd really like to add to.
Yeah. Sheridith Hardy from projectorsewing.com.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm sure the community will have some ideas, and I won't be able to do everything people can imagine, but I hope I can get the most important things.
Yeah. So you're open to hearing suggestions, but you have to work within the realm of what's possible.
Exactly.
Okay. So do you have any other like program ideas or any other things percolating that will help the projector sewists?
So I'm gonna punt on that question. I've got more ideas than I can act upon, and I don't want to
To
get
overpromise
somebody's
anything.
hopes up. Yep.
So I totally understand. Now that we have completely hyped up this program, you can find all sorts of links in the description box that will take you to a survey that Clinton has created about that. Depending on when you're watching this, that may or may not still be open. It will take you to a video that he has created that gives you a kind of a teaser about how it works. It will take you to a Facebook page and to a website that he's created to share about this, and where you'll be able to purchase it eventually, and all those sorts of things. And I will link a video once I get that up, which is also just showing kind of the process of setting it up and working through a tiny bit of a project. Um, y'all, this is game changer stuff. So it's really exciting to be here on the ground floor of this coming out. I feel the same way I felt whenever Charlotte was first doing PDF Stitcher. It's that same level, maybe even higher, of how much is this just going to change the way we projector. So I am so grateful that you came here to talk to us today and let us get to know you a little bit and explain where this crazy and awesome and projector sewing changing idea came from. Thank you, Clinton.
Oh, thank you for having me, Bronwyn. And yeah, I hope this helps everybody. All
Yeah.
the best.
All right. Is there anything else you need to add before we wrap this up?
Oh, goodness. There's probably people I need to thank. I think I'll have to do one of those things like an author does at the back of the book.
Yes.
But yeah, there's been other people who've helped me along the way. Sasha Soas, for example, has definitely introduced me to other people, and that's been phenomenal, and it has been great interacting with the community. I'm glad to be here.
Sasha is just such a powerhouse for us as projector sewists. We would not be half what we are these days without all the crazy, amazing things that she has done. She's awesome. Okay. Again, thank you, Clinton. It was so nice to talk to you today. And my friends, y'all tune in to all the other videos that we're going to have coming out about this because you don't want to miss this.
Have a great day.
Thanks for watching my videos. Like, subscribe, and comment.